The night before my sister's wedding, I went to bed in the guest room with a heart full of anticipation and a half-finished card resting on the nightstand. I had spent the past 2 weeks immersed in preparations, coordinating the catering, arranging the seating, even sewing a last-minute hem on her rehearsal dress. I hadn't been asked to give a toast, but I didn't mind. I was simply happy to be part of it. Around 3 a.m., I woke abruptly, gasping. A sudden, searing pressure cut across my cheekbone and mouth. Warm, sticky, metallic, the unmistakable taste of blood. Dizziness and confusion hit me simultaneously. That's when I saw them. My parents stood over me. My father's hand gripped my sister's silver centerpiece vise. My mother's expression was unmoved, cold as ice. "Serves you right for trying to steal her spotlight," she hissed. "Let's see them take photos of that face tomorrow." "What are you saying?" I stammered. Dad laughed, as though I'd asked him a joke. "You should have stayed invisible." "But no, you had to wear makeup, stand too close to the groom's mother." "You're nothing, just scenery." Pain blurred my vision. My lip was split, my eyes swelling rapidly. "Stay down," my mother commanded. "You've already ruined the dress rehearsal by existing." They raised their champagne glasses in a mock toast. "To peace and perfection," Dad said. "One less distraction." Clink. I crawled to the bathroom and locked the door. My hands shook as I switched on the light. The mirror reflected a face I barely recognized. Deep red swelling under one eye, a jagged gash over my eyebrow, blood trickling from my lips. I hadn't cried. That terrified me more than the injury. I felt nothing, just cold. Morning came. My sister pounded on the door. "Don't make a scene. Don't ruin this." My mother joined in. "Either come out and wear that gray dress or stay out." Quietly, I obeyed. When I stepped out, everyone recoiled. "Oh my God," my sister whispered. "What happened?" Before I could respond, my mother interjected smoothly. "She probably fell." "Always clumsy," she said, leaning close. "No one will believe you over us." She pressed a concealer stick into my hand like a warning. An hour later, I stood at the back of the church, my face bruised and masked with makeup. Guests stared, concerned, confused, but not one asked if I was all right. During the vows, my mother whispered, "Smile. Pretend to be useful." My father chuckled. "She's lucky we let her come." In that moment, something inside me snapped. Not broke, snapped. Sharp, thin, precise, like a scalpel's edge. They thought I would stay small, vanish quietly. But I had reached my limit. I already knew exactly what I would do. The next morning, sunlight pierced the curtains like knives. Every pulse in my face throbbed, reminding me of the wounds inflicted overnight. My reflection was worse than before, dark purple swelling under one eye, dried blood at the corner of my mouth, a cruel scratch down my cheek like a signature. Downstairs, laughter floated up from the kitchen, carefree, pretending nothing had happened. My father's booming voice carried, "Big day today. Our perfect daughter's wedding. Nothing can ruin it." My mother's sing-song addition, I made sure of that. And my sister's airy, satisfied giggle followed. Something inside me had shattered. But this time, I would not remain the backdrop. I went rigid for a moment, my hands gripping the edge of the bed like something might slip away. The anger didn't arrive all at once. It layered quietly. First shock, then confusion, then disbelief, until finally a cold, steady feeling settled inside me, deeper than rage. I stood, washed my face with cold water, and wrapped a scarf around the bruises. When I went downstairs, Mom looked up from the table and gave a practiced gasp. "What happened to your face?" she asked loud enough for the caterers to hear. "You should have been more careful walking in the dark." Dad, sipping his coffee, smiled and said, "Maybe clumsiness runs in the family." I wanted to scream. I wanted to pull the vase from the trash and fling it across the breakfast table and shout, "These are the injuries you gave me." But I stayed quiet because I remembered how fast they rewrote stories, how easily they turned me into a liar. Every bruise, every tear they'd labeled as attention-seeking, people believed those versions. No one believed the invisible daughter. So I sat silently and watched. When we arrived at the wedding hall by the lake, crystal chandeliers and white roses everywhere, I stood at the edge of the crowd. My sister, radiant in a designer gown, walked down the aisle arm in arm with Dad, the same man who'd tried to break my nose 12 hours earlier. Mom followed behind, whispering to guests, "My two girls look so beautiful today." Their laughter cut into me like a blade. People looked at me with pity. They assumed I'd had an accident or swollen from crying out of jealousy. No one bothered to ask the truth. They never did. After the ceremony, I lingered by the catering tent while guests raised champagne. My sister's husband toasted my parents. "You've raised a remarkable daughter." The crowd applauded. Dad lifted his glass too, looking straight at me. "To family," he said, "even those who try their best not to ruin the photos." People laughed. My stomach turned. Mom leaned toward a group of women and whispered loud enough for me to hear. She used to be pretty before she stopped taking care of herself, always trying to steal her sister's spotlight. Their giggles stung harder than any bruise. Then my phone buzzed in my purse, a message from Sarah, my coworker at the library, the only person who ever believed me. "You okay?" she asked. I typed back, "Not really, but I'll be okay soon." For the rest of the reception, I drifted through the celebration like a ghost. Every cruel sentence, every mocking smile I tucked away. I memorized their words, their faces, every small cruelty. My parents danced to soft jazz, clinking glasses and whispering. Finally, something to be proud of. A thought started to form then, slow, sharp, deliberate. Not revenge through chaos, not by yelling or exposure, but by image. Everything mattered to them because of appearance, reputation, the stage life behind the windows, the polished face they showed at parties. Their pride was currency, not love. So I decided to take what mattered most, their image. While the newlyweds posed for professional photos, I slipped into the bride's suite. My sister's phone lay unlocked on the vanity beside her lipstick and perfume. One tap, and I found everything. Her message threads with friends, bachelor party photos of her fiancé, the not-so-innocent text between her and the wedding planner. Every secret they tried to bury under champagne and pearls was now exposed. I didn't take anything. I didn't send a single message. Not yet. I only captured the evidence. Quietly, carefully, each moment documented. Then I picked up my father's phone from his jacket pocket. He never bothered locking it. Inside were countless messages to local officials, vendors, business contacts, money transfers, secret favors, deals disguised as donations. And my mother, her private folder named Helping Hands, filled with emails begging relatives to send money for her struggling daughter Jessica, attaching my photograph. She'd spent years collecting funds in my name, claiming I was sick or unemployed, all while mocking me in person, calling me worthless. By the time my sister's wedding ended, I had everything I needed. That evening, they celebrated again in the living room. Champagne glasses clinked, music played, my sister's laughter echoing through the house. I stood in the doorway, half in shadow under the warm lamplight. My father raised his glass toward me, his smile forced and polite. "Smile, darling. It's all over now." My mother added, "You'll never be the beautiful one, but at least you didn't ruin anything." My sister smirked. "Guess that vase woke you up, huh?" They laughed. I did something no one expected. I smiled. Calm, deliberate, steady. The kind of smile that made my mother's laughter falter first. She didn't understand. None of them did. By morning, the image of perfection they'd clung to so desperately would start to crumble. The files were already uploaded. Emails queued. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt alive. I didn't sleep that night. Not from pain. I was used to that, but from a new clarity. Fear had finally loosened its grip. The house that had once felt like a cage now felt temporary, like a stage waiting for the curtains to fall. Before dawn, at 5 a.m., I left my room without waking anyone. The living room still smelled of champagne and perfume. Half-empty glasses scattered across the table. A bouquet wilted on the carpet. My parents were passed out on the couch, still in their formal attire. My sister snored on the armchair, shoes kicked off. I watched them. 3 people obsessed with appearances, blind to reality. They thought last night had been their triumph. They didn't realize that same obsession would be their undoing. Earlier, while alone upstairs, I had done what I do best. From my laptop, I scheduled 3 anonymous email releases for 9 a.m. sharp. One to my father's largest clients, exposing under-the-table payments and fabricated invoices. One to my mother's charity donors, revealing how she had used my image and lied about her ailing daughter. And the last, sent to my sister's in-laws, containing a few subtle screenshots, enough to make them question her without cruelty. I wasn't seeking chaos. I wanted truth. At 8:30 a.m., I packed a bag. My face throbbed, bruised from past blows. But this time I didn't hide it. The swelling, the discoloration, they were no longer shameful. They were proof. I slipped on my coat and entered my son's room. He opened his eyes when I touched his shoulder. Time to go, sweetheart. Where? Somewhere warm. Somewhere no one lies to us. He nodded, trusting me the way only a child who's seen too much can. We left quietly without a backward glance. At exactly 9 a.m., waiting at the bus stop, my phone erupted with notifications, one after another, then hundreds. My father's clients, my mother's donors, my sister's new in-laws, all responding, calling, forwarding, demanding explanations. By noon, everything they had built began to unravel. My father's office was in chaos. My mother's carefully curated image shattered, and my sister's secrets were finally surfacing. A client leaked one of the payment conversations online. I hadn't done anything illegal, just exposed truths that couldn't be twisted. His phone kept ringing as I read the news alert, a local businessman under scrutiny for falsified donations. By that afternoon, my mother's Helping Hands Foundation had vanished from the web. One of her donors, my own aunt, had posted screenshots of every deceitful email Mom had sent. She had signed her lies with my sister's name, claiming a young girl needed medical help she never knew about. By evening, my sister's husband's family canceled the honeymoon. Images of her texting the wedding planner were circulating like wildfire through the small town. No one reached out to me, not a single call. By the second night, my phone finally buzzed with a single message from Dad. No greeting, no explanation, just 5 cold words. You think this fixes anything? I typed back slowly. No, it only proves it was never real, just fake. Then I shut off the phone. The following weeks were quieter than I expected. My son and I moved into a modest apartment above Clara's bakery. The same Clara who had given me my first genuine kindness months ago. She never asked questions. She just left a folded blanket on the couch and said, "New beginnings don't require explanations." I took a job managing her accounts, and my son started school nearby. He made a friend, the first real friend he'd ever had, and one afternoon, he came home holding a drawing. The two of us beneath a big yellow sun. "Mom," he said, "I made you look happy." I laughed, truly laughed, for the first time in years. 2 months later, I received an unmarked invitation in the mail. It was a photograph printed on thick, expensive paper. My parents sitting in their once proud living room, now half empty, auction signs visible outside the window. My sister sat next to them, mascara streaked, eyes hollow. Across the photo, in Mom's handwriting, were the words, "Are you happy now?" I pinned it to the fridge, not out of spite, but as a reminder. Happiness wasn't seeing them fall. It was knowing they could no longer hurt me. One evening, after closing the bakery, Clara found me on the porch, staring at the sunset. "Do you ever wonder if you went too far?" she asked softly. I shook my head. No, I had gone exactly far enough. She smiled faintly. "Good. Just don't dwell too long. Revenge loses its color if you stare at it too hard." I turned my gaze to the horizon. The fading sunlight hit my scar, once a source of shame, now a map of survival. It wasn't ugly anymore. It was proof I could endure and rebuild. A year later, I opened my own little cafe in town, part bakery, part art space. I called it Glass and Grace. People always asked about the name. I'd smile and say, both can break, but only one reflects light afterward. Every day, I watched my son laugh, the warmth in his eyes a reminder of what we had reclaimed. And sometimes late at night, I'd pass a newspaper stand and see my parents' names in tiny print, a lingering echo of the scandals they couldn't outrun, of the lies they could never clean up. They used to toast to perfection. Now, all they could taste was regret. I hadn't destroyed them. They had done it themselves. I simply held up the mirror they had once smashed against me, and this time I was the one holding it steady.